Hello again. Welcome to another edition of Arts and Ideas. I'm Sue Swinand. And today, well, I guess I got lucky today. I'm over at Nick's Bar and Restaurant at 124 Millbury Street in Worcester with a very exciting guy who is my guest, Louie Despres. And he's a photographer who has been doing wonderful things on the scene here in Worcester. I want to tell you a little bit about Louie. Thanks for bringing
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for bringing me in here
Well,
today.
I'd like to get people out of the house and, to see part of our beautiful city. And this is definitely one of our crown jewels.
Here. Yes, it is one of the crown jewels. Louie has done a lot of exhibiting in the area. He was in the Wormtown Rocks show in 2010 at the Worcester Art Museum. And he had a terrific show over at the Krikorian Gallery with Don Hartman. I thought that was a great show.
It was wonderful.
So what I want to know is, why did you choose Nick's and what brought us to Nick's today?
Nick's is a place that I really care about, mainly because it's my second home. I love the place. I love the people who come here. I love the place itself. The rooms, they have two rooms here that it looks like you're in a medieval castle.
We're in the back room and it's filled with paintings and stained glass windows and all kinds of crazy stuff.
And it's just, I know people here, and so it's a very homey feel when I come.
Uh-huh.
And they have good beer too, so.
They sure do. I always think of you as kind of a Worcester guy, the Worcester guy who knows everything about Worcester. Are you a native?
I'm not. I actually grew up not far from here, but in central Mass in a very small town named Wheelwright. It's a village in the town of Hardwick. And I lived there, until a little bit after high school and moseyed out for a while. And eventually found my way into Worcester. From the first few times I came here, I just loved the city.
So you do a lot of nightlife photography. I
have done in the past. I'm trying to get away from that. It's what I'm known for.
Yeah.
The work we're looking at now is I started off when I first came to the city.
And what is the name of this series?
This is called Power and Volume. It's a quote from Pete Townsend of The Who that I always liked because I think that's why I go to see music, because I like energy when it's coming off the stage. And of course, volume never hurts.
Yes, it does.
What?
It does.
Exactly. So when I first came to Worcester, I started photographing bands. And it was at a time when not many people were doing it in Worcester. So I almost had the market on it for a long time.
Did you feel like you got into, well, first tell me about this photograph, because
This is my friend Rich. He plays in a band, they're still around, plays in a band, The Pathetics. And this is at the end of their set, and he was coming off the stage and he's sweaty. He's just getting ready to take his guitar off his neck. And it just shows to me the power of the band, and also the what he's given his all on the stage.
Yeah, that's what I got out of all of them.
He's spent.
When people are really out there, giving their all.
And he's sweaty, he's disgusting, but he's beautiful.
Yeah. What I'm going to ask is if you got into the photography of the bands through the music. Like, was it the art of music that got you first, or was it the visual?
I can't say that. It's always been about, I've always loved music since, some of my earliest memories as a child are listening to music, and it's crazy. I grew up at a time where I had access to Beatle records. I had access to Jesus Christ Superstar soundtrack, which everyone my age, I think they were all loved it, just because it was rock and roll, but telling the Bible story. But I don't think I ever listened to it like that. I just listened to it because of the rock and roll.
Yeah.
And the Monkees and the Doors and all that other stuff. So I always loved music at a young age. And I guess as I got older, it's, I wanted to seek out these bands because we never, growing up in such a small town.
Are most of these bands people are they local bands or?
Yeah. Most of the people I know This one that we're looking at now, which is the guy rolling around on the floor in feathers and
Yeah.
in grease and.
It's a powerful shot, I
Right.
must say.
Thank you. This is at the Lucky Dog, which is now the Cove Music Hall. But the Lucky Dog used to have these shows every week on Wednesday night. That was called the Wormtown Wednesday, and they would have I don't know what.
Wormtown is Worcester for those of you
Oh,
who
yeah.
don't know. Okay, go.
So they'd have Wormtown Wednesday, which was basically 10 bands could show up and sign up before the night, and then they'd have
So
10
just
bands.
random people
It was like
come in.
it was like an open mic for rock and roll,
Wow.
and it was just.
How did they all get set up and everything?
Well, they would usually have a back line, so they'd have amps on the stage
Yeah.
and a drum kit,
You just
and then people would just switch off
plug
as
in,
time.
yeah.
I've seen some great bands there. I've seen some really awful bands there. This is the band. This gentleman was the singer for a band called the Moist Chicken, and I don't know how to. I mean, you could see the photo.
You can't.
Describing
you
their
don't-
music was like awful core. It was like supposed to be punk, but their visual part of the show was the best part. I was never a huge fan, but
How can you explain it? You know, you just see it, and it's so physical, so real, so visceral. So I mean, and then it's so like he's wearing these funny little spectacles, you know,
Right.
and stuff like that. You just
in a diaper, so we
Yeah.
have the diaper in.
What really strikes me too is that these people are completely letting go. You know, they're
That's what music
completely
is, I mean.
vulnerable, completely out of their own. It's like you go out of your own skin.
Well,
you know?
music has that effect
Yes, it
on
does.
musicians when they're playing.
It has an effect on people listening, people dancing. You know, I was thinking, like, even in religions, like the rabbis, they dance because it moves them out of themselves, you know?
Right. So that's probably one of the reasons I was drawn to this, is it wasn't being in a studio with, staid models who were doing what you told them to do.
Yeah,
This is
with
capturing
fake
people
everything.
as it's
Yeah.
happening.
Yes, there's nothing fake about this.
No, I mean, this is a moment captured
Yes,
just like
yes.
that.
And nothing staged about it.
No.
No. And who's this?
This is the drummer Danny from a band Huck that used to play here in Worcester an awful lot in the 90s and early 2000s. And he always tried to put on a smiley face every time I took his photo. So I have hundreds of photos of him with a big smile on his face.
You know what I
so
thought
I
was
tried to-
interesting
Yeah.
about your work is when you photograph people, even like guy lying on the floor with the feathers, people in your photographs seem to be in a state of joy, as opposed to looking at a photographer. Like, so a lot of people photograph street people, and it's not always joyous, whereas yours seems to recognize their vulnerability, recognize the pathos of it, but they're making the most of it, you know?
This is why I love when other people look at my work and then talk to me about it, because it's an unconscious thing when I shoot. I don't see that.
Yeah.
So when somebody tells me what they're getting out of my photography, it's always interesting to me. The way you just described it, I had no idea that. I don't see
you
it.
think the people look like they're having a great time?
I think they all look like they're having a great time, but I'm
Yeah.
right there with them. That's the
Yeah.
thing. I'm enjoying this as much as anyone.
Yeah. So what's this one?
This one we have here. This is another Lucky Dog shot. There's a band that was around for a long time in the '90s, broke up for a little while, and now back. They're called the Balls, and this is General Krutov, lead singer of the Balls.
I love the shadow.
And I just love the shadow.
the
He's
shadow.
like he's praying to some god, and
He's outside of himself, that's for sure.
yeah. I mean,
He's
well,
outside
usually
of
every
himself.
show he is, but
It's the firelight coming up as he goes. It's
absolutely.
Yep.
And it's like this. I hate to use the word spiritual, but it is
No.
the spirit of music.
No kidding. Yeah. Don't worry about it. It's good. It's what art is all about. Okay.
This is my buddy Roger from the band The Curtain Society.
The what society?
The Curtain Society. And another band, played around forever. They still play gigs here and there, not as much anymore. One of the best bands I've seen live,
No kidding.
bar none, in the city.
No kidding.
three great musicians. You have Roger LaValle,
Oh yeah.
Duncan Arsenal, Ron Momini, who they're just three of the most proficient musicians you'll ever see.
Isn't it wonderful how people can just devote their life to this feeling of making music or making art, or
I think with a
it's
lot of us,
it's a gift, isn't it?
it's a gift, and it's a lot of us we get upset or depressed if we don't do it.
Yeah.
You have to, and everyone asks me, why do you still photograph, or why do you photograph this? And I'm like, because I can't stop. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Oh, this is a powerful one.
So there's a band that used to be around. Unfortunately, they're not anymore. They were another great local band, or they were from Lowell, I think, or somewhere up in the north of Boston. This is Dan from Sumo, and they put out a couple of powerful albums. I think 2 albums, maybe even more. But they would just come to Worcester and just play this music that was just so heavy and powerful. And I just thought his presence on the stage was just overwhelming.
Wow. The image is overwhelming. It's just, it's so raw and primal.
It's
and
how do you bring that out in a band when they're playing?
No, you can't stage these kinds of things. Yeah. Beautiful. It's a beautiful image.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful image. So what's this series called?
This is Nightlife. And this is after giving up, like I said, giving up photography for a couple of years. I decided to get back into it, and it was something familiar to me, but going on a different tangent. The image we're looking at now is my friend Brian, Brian Nelson, who draws the Laurel cartoon. I don't know if you've seen it. It's in Telegram Towns. But he's been doing this comic strip for, oh my God, 4 or 5 years now, maybe even longer. And he's right here at Nick's in the back room. He's got a Manhattan in front of him. Manhattan in front of him, and he's drawing. And
You know what I love? The 3 circles.
Yeah.
The rhythm of 3 circles. Go ahead.
But it's not. You say you love that. It's not something I saw when I was shooting. I'm looking at his caricature that he's drawing.
Yeah. But
So
you picked out this photograph because it had,
it's a great picture. It's him doing what he loves the most, and in one of the places that he loves
and
too.
totally unaware.
Totally. Well, he knew I was doing it, but he didn't. He just kept on going.
Yeah, I love it. Good one.
So one of the aspects I wanted to have in the Nightlife series was just to show people as they experience what's happening at night. This is my friend Nicole, and she's dancing on stage at the Lucky Dog. I don't know. I can't remember what the reason. Maybe she was performing. She performs in a band called the Deadites, and she may have been performing, or she may have just hopped up on stage when some good song was playing. I cannot remember, but there she is. I love the colors in this one and the movement, the way the camera's.
It's very dynamic
Yes.
with the diagonals, and her hair swept aside, and she's totally into it. You can tell. Yeah.
And this image is I don't do wedding photography, but this is a wedding I went to, and there were just this couple kissing as I was walking past them with my camera, and a woman in front of them was taking a photo with her little digital camera, and so I thought, what a perfect moment to just photograph them as they are living their life. And
I like the way you get things in the foreground that makes it kind of random and not stage set, It gives it a placement in space,
you try to look for that when you're shooting. Sometimes
Yeah.
it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But this, I just love the look of her arms. Her arms are just all
Yeah.
over the place.
Their arms
as
are great.
she's leaning into the table and trying to get a good photo with them.
Yeah, I like the 2 spoons side by side too.
A lot of people like that too.
I think the black and white has something to do with that photograph as well.
I looked at it in, this is a digital photo, so I looked at it in color, and the color just didn't have any punch to it.
There's a little more romance in the black and white.
I think so as well.
Yeah? And how about this one?
And one of the aspects of the Nightlife series is to try to show all of nightlife. And this is a house party my friend had. My friend Sean used to have soup parties It was just, I think, a way to have a party and call it something else. But he would make 3 soups, and then we'd go and have beers and hang out, and usually music would go on at a certain time, and just people letting go and
Wonderful
enjoying themselves at a house party.
community feeling
Exactly.
of being together, and it's like it's really a wonderful experience to be in that mode.
No, it was a great. You did it for a very short time, maybe about a
Yeah.
year, and
Going back to what we were saying before about the people in your photographs, I was thinking of like who would be some of your photographers that you really love, or influences, or something like that.
I don't know if I'd call them influencers. I think we're influenced. I think all photographers, all artists, take a little bit of different things that they see and incorporate them into what they do. I love Gary Winogrand, who's one of my favorites of all time.
Which is that random moment.
The random
grab
moment,
shot.
it's like,
yeah.
and there's ones I admire, but I don't really think I'm anywhere. They ever influenced me, like Henri Cartier-Bresson, who's amazing. But there's, I know a few people who are my age who photograph, and one of the biggest influences on them was a book called the Book of Life, which is I think every parent bought it in the 70s, and it's all photos from Life magazine.
Yes.
Then we come to this gentleman. This is I love to shoot in the Green Street area because I think there's a lot of life that goes on there. And this gentleman, I've tried to photograph him about 9 times, and he would always turn his back to me. But this is right out in front of the long lamented, lost, lucky Salty Dog, which was right in Kelly Square, and it was just 2 a.m. after the bars had closed. He was out there to sell flowers, and he's just standing
People
there.
are amazing, aren't they?
And he's just standing
Yeah.
there, and I hid behind a friend of mine, set my camera up, which I knew was going to be a quick shot, and this is what I got.
Yeah. Are you always grabbing the shots and
You try to, yeah. It's the
trying
flash.
to catch people
The
unaware?
the flash helps with that.
How about this one?
This is the photo right now that's at Arts Worcester.
And this
It's in
is
the
at
biennial.
Nick's, right?
This
I
is at
recognize
Nick's.
the lamps and the booths.
This is another one of I'm here at 1:30 after work enjoying a brew with my friends, and this is what's presented right in front of me at
around midnight.
Yeah, exactly. This is what's going on right in front of me. So I always keep my camera with me. Photographers, you should know to always keep your camera with you. And this is what was right in front of me.
Yeah. It has a certain quality, like, kind of the Nighthawks. Or
Everyone says this. I feel like Edward Hopper took this photo.
Yeah. Because it's the
I mean, that's an honor.
isolation.
He's like one of my
it's
favorites.
the isolation, the loneliness, we're all just doing the best we can.
Right.
So now let's move to the last series. What's the series called?
This is called Factory. And my father started a business in 1975 in Ware, Mass. And I joined him in about 87. And we were very prosperous for a lot of years. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, things started to go south. And
Or east.
What's that?
Or east.
In about 3 months, 95% of our business went to China. It was just like night and day, hitting us in the back of the head, saying, "Your business is done for."
Yeah.
So we tried to keep on going. We tried to make a go of it, and we had extremely hard time, and we ended up being sold to another company. This is the last 3 years of our business being in existence, and I wanted to document it. I wanted to document the final years. And I started off as needing to get away from my computer, my desk, and had my camera, and like, what do? I got to create something. So it was just going into the space and feeling all the feelings of those 25 years I worked there and create something. I had to do something with the space. So the first image we're looking at right now is just the loading dock. This is what was at our loading dock. All of these photos that I shot for this series, I just wanted to be as I found them. I didn't move anything around. I didn't, set up any photos. This is just as I found it that day. I'd walk around with my tripod, set it up, and just photograph our building as it was still a business that was on its way out.
Do you think you were more attracted to the kind of the history and nostalgia and feeling of the thing, or more to the formal, like were you struck to choose that red line in the middle, for example?
There's definitely some artistic quality I wanted to put in there.
The way you chose.
Right, the way I chose things. But this is like we just had loaded a truck, and this is what I saw. And I'm like, leave everything as it is. I'm going upstairs to get my camera and tripod.
I like the geometry and the frontal. It's like the grid,
So we'll go to the next. This is just at the loading dock again, but this is just in a factory building. You have waste, you have corrugated that's generated, pallets, garbage on the right-hand side here, recycling. So this is all the stuff that remains after you manufacture. And I just want to, all this stuff is just documenting, like I said, what's right in front of me.
Artistically, the way I feel about this one is different from the last, because this one feels like stuff, all
It's
jammed,
stuff. It's stuff.
jammed around me.
It's very confining.
Yes, compressed.
And this is how I'm feeling inside.
Yeah,
It's all
yeah.
trying to. And this is the first
What do
work
we
I've
do
done
with
where
all this stuff?
this is the first work I've done where I've had to put all my emotion into it. Really.
Yeah.
And
So this
think
is
about,
near and dear
this is
to
thinking
your
about
personal
work.
heart, and
Whereas the other stuff we looked at
your
earlier.
life.
Right, but the other stuff we looked at earlier, I'm out having fun. This is
Yes.
actually confronting what's going on
In your
around
life.
me, in my
Yeah.
life. This
Yeah.
is my life.
It also shines a light on what was going on in the lives of a lot of people at that time. Oh, this is a beauty. What's this
Okay,
one?
so this is our elevator door. We were in an old factory building that was built in the early 1900s. And we had an old elevator that never gave us any problems, but the state deemed that it wasn't up to snuff, so they shut it down on us.
So this is your warning. You know where this is going.
We know where it's going. It's like, and we have an elevator that we need to use to do work, to manufacture. In the States, it's almost like another nail in the coffin.
Exactly.
And knowing that you don't have enough money to repair it.
Yeah. Wow.
So this photo of the, here we are in our employee break room, and this is another one. This is employees who have been there for 20 years, and this is what you find that they bring to work. They have Lipton tea, and we have a coffee maker, their peanut butter, and this is just stuff that they left there.
It kind of humanizes it, that people are there, and that.
Well, one of the things I wanted with this series is not to make it seem like it's a dead, abandoned space. I wanted to make it seem like there's people still there. There's things. We're still working at it. We're still We're still trying to work at it. I didn't want it to make it seem like an abandoned space that I'm going into this. These are a bunch of skate conveyors that I just thought made a great geometric pattern. And there's dust on them, but it's just a great image. This is our storage space on the second floor. And over time, you manufacture samples to send to clients. And when we were getting ready to sell the business, this is consolidating all those samples that you made over the years into a small space.
It reminds me of circling the wagons.
Yeah,
It's what's left.
The next one we have here is, if you own an old building, you always are doing work on it. You always are repairing things, taking things down, putting things up. These are all old fluorescent light bulbs that the ballast had gone out on, and so they didn't work anymore. So what do you do with them? Well, you can't throw them away yet because you've got to find somebody to take them. So you stack them against the wall. Ballasts are on the left with the old fluorescent lights. And this thing that you're looking at with all the wires on the right is actually our phone system in our office. So the phone company came in and put this together for us. It looks awful, but it worked worked amazingly. And so you do with the you're building from the early 1900s.
So this is kind of like
and you're
how
trying to
you go
update.
on.
This is it.
How you go on.
This
you
is it.
Plug the rubble gum into the
You do it.
the hairpin and the.
You certainly do
Oh
it.
my.
And the last image we have here is another. It's the factory space. We have fans that show that there is life there. If they weren't there, why are we using fans? Well, it's because building gets hot in the summer, so you got to cool it down. In the front is our old factory building sign that we had up on the roof of another manufacturing thing that we had to take down, and it's in storage, almost like ready for the grave. So
Everything is disposable, isn't it?
everything,
We included.
exactly.
People, places, exactly. It's a very poignant shot. Wow, what a great selection you chose.
Thank you. I mean, this factory series, it's probably the most real work I've done.
The one that touches
The one
you
that touches
most?
me the most. It's hard for me to look
Interesting.
at this.
Interesting.
I worked there for 25 years, so it's.
Very poignant.
Mhm.
Yeah, compelling work.
Thanks.
It's compelling for for viewers too. Well, I think we have to wrap it up. Before we go, I just wanted to give a little shout out for Louie's wife, Tina Zlody, who has made a wonderful contribution to the city of Worcester in many ways in
Absolutely.
supporting the arts, mainly in her origination of the Start on the Street, which has been tremendously
proud of her for that.
successful. Way to go, Tina. And tell us do you have anything coming up or?
Maybe not coming up. I got about 3 projects I'm working on right now that will eventually be released, hopefully.
Well, you have the work at the Arts Worcester now in
Arts
the
Worcester.
biennial.
In the Fitchburg Art Museum, I've just entered a piece in there, so
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. And you have a website?
I do. It's www.louie, Louie, Despres, Despres.com.
Hey, this has been one of my fun interviews, but I'm so glad you brought us here, and thanks for joining
Thank
us
you,
today.
Sue.
And we hope you'll join us again next time for another edition of Arts and Ideas.